this is Marina from Darkstar Astrology bringing you the solar eclipse. It's on its way on the 2nd of July and it will fall at 10 degrees Cancer Decan 2. So it's in between, well, it's on the cusp really of Decan 2, but it's still in Decan 2. Anything after 10 is Decan 2. Now, it's going to be aligned with fixed star Alhena, which is found in Pollux's foot. And Pollux is the supposedly evil twin. The eclipse is also trine Neptune, and while the eclipse is happening, Saturn is conjunct the moon south node, which is really important because this is what makes the eclipse an eclipse, because the moon is pretty close to the actual nodes. And for anyone who doesn't know what the nodes are, they show the point at which the moon and the sun's path kind of intersect, cross over. So it's an important position. The tarot card that's associated with the decan and this solar eclipse is going to be the very nice Three of Cups. And so the healing crystal I chose for this is Citrine. So it's a new moon, but it's a special new moon being the solar eclipse. So with the moon in Cancer, where it rules, family values are really high, so if the parental support is available, we can attract success to our lives. Those touched by this solar eclipse won't feel particularly ambitious, but the good thing is they won't need to be, because they will just seem to attract the right people and right work for them, to them. So if you are job hunting, the right opportunity simply falls in your lap just when you need it. So this is a really very auspicious decan for the solar eclipse and a great one for social gatherings and family get-togethers. There is a negative side though, in that we cannot take any harsh or ruthless behaviour at this time, for we will feel extra sensitive and will really need those cuddles. So at this eclipse, it's not the time to use the Spartan school of disciplining, either on those we are responsible for in work or in a domestic situation. Expect tears and tantrums if you go in too heavy-handed. The resentment that builds up after this solar eclipse could be very bitter, with the injured party making you pay dearly for their perceived suffering. So not a good one for snowflakes. The need to be in a safe community is very important at this solar eclipse. So we're so sensitive to the neighborhood vibration. Those touched by this eclipse, and especially lunar types, will do better in tranquil suburban areas than frantic city centres with higher crime rates. Get out of the big smoke if you can and watch this from a mountain. So now let's look at the fixed star Alhena. It's in Pollux, and Manalus says about Pollux is that from the twins come less laborious callings and a more agreeable way of life, provided by varied song and voices of harmonious tone, slender pipes, the melodies inborn in strings, and the words fitted there too. Sorry, it's very oldie worldy English, and sometimes it's kind of hard to digest it. So he says, those so endowed find even work a pleasure. They would banish the arms of war, the trumpet's call, and the gloom of old age. Theirs is a life of ease and unfading youth spent in the arms of love. So that's sweet. That's why I called this eclipse Joyous. So now, the interesting thing is that this star can be vengeful and destructive given half a chance, though. But it seems that some sweet music and a loving embrace can work wonders. Again, it seems that at this sensitive solar eclipse, we will need to be treated kindly, wrapped in cotton wool, and no sharp knives. So Alhena does fall in the left foot of Pollux, the immortal or bad twin, as he's known. Now, the star technically belongs to Cancer Decan 1, but like I said, we're on the cusp, so it's still within orb of this solar eclipse. Alhena means a brand or mark burnt in. Bullinger says that it means hurt, wounded, or afflicted. So there's the snowflakey element. Similar to Propus, it conveys the same meaning as the Achilles heel. So even though this decan is so talented and skilled at getting what it wants, it does have a soft center and it makes them surprisingly vulnerable. Again, the sensitivity comes through. There's also a tendency to self-sabotage as well. And Robson says it bestows eminence in art but gives liability to accidents affecting the feet. There's also skill with writing and speech and the ability to settle disputes peacefully. So there's a kind of peacemaking, sitting on the fence, mercurial side to this. So interestingly, the mix of the twins' sharp minds and writing skills in sensitive, imaginative Cancer combine poetically to make great art. Eric Morse observes that when any of the Gemini stars precessed into tropical Cancer, there was a significant flourishing of European philosophy and literature. And this happened with Alhena in 1349, that's when it entered Cancer. And then also with Tejat Posterior in 1621 and Propus in 1755. I think that was the Enlightenment. So now the second phase of Cancer, this is usually these are really like a phase of evil works, but this one is a nice one. So the second phase of Cancer is a woman with a beautiful face, and her head, she has a crown of green myrtle, and her hand is the stem of a plant called water lily, and she is singing songs of love and joy. This is a face of games, wealth and abundance. So that's nice. No evilness this time. So the aspects as well are nice. It's very glamorous with Sun, Trine, Neptune. And this can be wonderfully glamorous, charismatic, musical, poetic and highly imaginative. But it does come with a price. You see, when I was researching this, I found that this aspect appears to be tinged with tragedy as well in some of the people that have this natally. I think it's because the trine goes so easy with the flow that with Neptune, it can make one's ego become too easily porous and suggestible. So the willpower of the masses are easily swayed by smoke and mirrors at this solar eclipse. It could make it hard for those touched by this eclipse to resist drugs, alcohol, or temptations of escapism at this time. So this being an eclipse, we look at both the sun and the moon with their aspects because they're conjunct, and the moon is trine Neptune as well. So yeah, sorry, I just read out the sun trine Neptune, and this is the moon. It could make us extremely devoted to our lovers at this time, but we need to be careful our longing to merge doesn't leave us with no sense of self whatsoever. We will do best when we put this great devotion into an all-consuming passion. So that's, an artistic project or a spiritual practice, or even better, working to transform the lives of the sick and needy. So, this is very utopia building as well. There's a budding saviour quality about it, and it's very much in tune with the common people's hopes and dreams. The nurturing side of the moon in this solar eclipse can take on a transpersonal role in mothering the world. Now, the tarot card is so lovely. It's the lovely Three of Cups, and it's celebratory of life and suggests good karma earned. So that's very similar to the trine aspect that we have anyway. So Teach Me Tarot say of this card that the multiple choice or feast or famine aspects of this card could find you moving from a period of drought in your love life to having several potential partners to choose from all at one time. If there's been a separation or falling out between partners, then the Three of Cups can symbolise that happy reunion. So since the joy of the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, also shines through here, that's quite fitting. And the card is associated with multiple marriages or many children. It could also signify a period spent socialising and organising parties. So, this is a lovely summary card and very appropriate for a summer solar eclipse, and hopefully we can take out the positives rather than the negatives, because yes, I know solar eclipses can be they shake things up, but they can also be used in a powerful way for positive change as well. So this solar eclipse is going to be fantastic for creating new good karma and healing relationships, since Saturn is conjunct that south node of the moon. But the only people that will really see it, see the shadow over it, will be in Chile and Argentina. That's the place. Those are the places to go if you want to see it. And I'll give you a link to the original post where you can find the full meaning of the solar eclipse, and also a link for the path, the solar eclipse path as well. Now, I chose the citrine as the healing crystal because it's just so perfect for this comforting and warm solar eclipse. Its bright yellow colour looks just like a crystallized sun, and sunshine has the ability to brighten up even the gloomiest of moods, and so it is with this cheerful crystal. Though the eclipse will cast a shadow for a while, this crystal's guaranteed to keep you glowing. Now, this stone is known as the light maker and associated with success and abundance. Crystalvaults.com, they say that carrying a citrine attracts love and happiness and guards against those who would break your heart. It also is an effective shield against spite and jealousy. And crystals and jewellery say that citrine carries the power of the sun, the healing energy of the sun, as well as the more scientific aspects of exposure to it, like vitamin D, are all qualities of rejuvenation and also found in the citrine. Citrine can work wonders in keeping your spirits lifted and your mood high. So it's a bit of an, it's like, it makes me think of what's the herb that's a natural antidepressant? Evening primrose. Yeah, it's got the similar colour as well. So since this is a special solar eclipse, I thought I'd do what it means for each sign. So since I don't do the monthly horoscopes anymore, I thought this would be a way to kind of just make up for it a bit. So let's start with Aries, and this eclipse is going to be in your 4th house, one of the foundational houses. Can be quite a life-changing event. It's all the more potent if it triggers any of your personal planets in this house of your roots, father and property. What this period will bring up for you then is any childhood wounds that have not been addressed. And if you had a dysfunctional upbringing, then this period can be very challenging though. Events in your daily life can bring up long buried feelings, very emotional moon, as we have seen, and simply from nowhere. And this can last over the next 6 months as well. It's not just on the day of the eclipse. So you could be emotional for quite a long time afterwards. So I think it would be very helpful to take a trip somewhere that is meaningful to your ancestors. And it's important to go somewhere relatively unspoilt and solitary so you can have some quiet time contemplating with the land. And you could actually even move house, especially if the eclipse actually falls close to the IC itself. So for Taurus, this falls in your student zone, zapping your brain synapses, and it resets all your local connections. Networks that you are plugged into get firewired into action, and your mind becomes hungry for new information. At this time, you might decide to embark on an apprenticeship of some kind. You could actually go back to school or simply be called to initiate some personal study and research. Picking up new skills is highlighted, or maybe learning something that breaks you out of bad habits. For example, you might join a new local yoga class that retrains the way you've been holding your posture for the better. So for Gemini, this is in your cash zone, and the effects of this eclipse could be quite variable. Now, because this is the house of money, people often worry about financial crises when an eclipse falls here. But there's only a very slim chance, and it's only possible really if the eclipse closely aspects a personal planet here or hits the ruler of this house by hard aspect. And even if a credit crunch does occur, eclipses in your house of self-worth are simply opportunities to see how much you really value yourself. Now, because this is also a very family orientated eclipse, it could be to do with the self-esteem and childhood wounds as well. So if you're feeling sort of cut off from your family, maybe it would be a good idea to try and heal those bonds during this time. So for Cancer, obviously you realise this is in your own sign, so your 1st house, if you're reading this for your ascendant. Now, this is, it could be life-changing. The closer to the ascendant it is, the more likely that it will be. So if you're not too happy with what's been going on recently, this is a really good moment to sort of turn things around and shake things up. But if you are quite pleased with your life at the moment, then you actually don't really need to worry that it will all fall apart at this eclipse. I would say not. It's a nice one anyway. That is, unless you really do have a dead body buried under the patio or are totally living a lie. Now, in that case, the eclipse would really expose that rotten skeleton. I can never say skeleton. It's skeleton. I always said skeleton. Anyway, skeleton. The revelations could be shocking to those who, up to now, have seen you as a certain type of person. On the other hand, it might be a relief to have it all out in the open. Even if you do have to go through some disdain or ridicule for a while, this is a way of finding out who your true friends are. So this solar eclipse is all about being true to your identity and not having to wear a mask. So for Leo, the universe is speaking loudly and you are divinely inspired. If, however, there are some unrecognised boogeymen that are giving you nightmares, then it's time to open the creaky cupboards of your subconscious and shoo them out. This area of your chart is also one of hidden enemies, so there is the possibility of psychic attack, which could show as psychosomatic illnesses. It could be that your immunity is low due to not being firm with others' demands or through your excessive alcohol use. The solar eclipse here does seem to insist on dissolving boundaries, but this can be a good thing if you have been walling yourself off from the world, complete with castle and moat. Otherwise, the solar eclipse is just shining a light on great big chinks in your psychic armour that are in need of fortification. So for Virgo, a solar eclipse in your 11th house shows the importance of social networking at conferences, festivals and seminars related to your career or a subject that you've been passionate about. If you feel like you cannot relate to your friends any longer and have been feeling left out for some time, then this solar eclipse could throw up an event that really does exile you for good. Divorcing from a clique of friends is something that this eclipse could pressure you to do. Instead of the usual drifting apart, a sudden dramatic break forces you to search for fresh alliances. That way you can make sure that these new companions are more in tune with your visions for the future. So for Libra, this is in one of your angular houses, so supremely important because it's in your career house. And this means that you are no longer content to stand on the sidelines cheering on other less worthy peers. It's all about confidence. If your parents were not inclined to champion your efforts and were rather critical of you, then you must address whether this same programming is what's holding you back now. This is not the time to hold back. It's about facing your fear of rejection and grabbing the solar spotlight unashamedly. Ask for that pay rise, promotion or more publicity. What's the worst that can happen? With solar eclipses, expect the unexpected. Whether you are pleasantly surprised or slapped in the face, at least you will know where you stand. Scorpio, this is in your 9th house of travel, philosophy and morals and ethics. At this time, you could find a teacher who inspires soul growth that will affect you profoundly and that lasts for the rest of your life. This person could be your standard spiritual guru, but also could be someone who is simply very wise and has gained this knowledge through hard knocks from the school of life. Travel is, of course, another avenue that broadens the mind in this zone. So for the next 6 months, trips abroad or meaningful exchanges with influential foreigners could help you see the world through a much wider angle lens. So for Sagittarius, it's going to be in the spooky house of the 8th house. Now, this eclipse could give you an epiphany moment where you suddenly see the unpleasant but real truth about an issue. It could also bring about a dark night of the soul where you experience quite disturbing dreams also. But hopefully this won't be too much of a nightmarish time. But if it is, it's just showing you what you've been brushing under the carpet for far too long. We all know what happens when a dank part of the house gets ignored. Spiders, mould and other nasties take hold and eventually start eating into the actual wall. The longer we leave it, the more frightening the prospective scum build-up becomes. The solar eclipse comes just in time before it gets too disgusting a job to even contemplate. So for Capricorn, the solar eclipse has the effect of reinforcing satisfying and balanced relationships, because guess what? It's in your 7th house of marriage, so therefore another angular important house. But it's also splitting apart weak or draining connections. You might have quite a few passionate arguments with partners of all sorts during this eclipse period, but they will only serve to bring you closer. Passion is the word as debates get heated, but this is just the shot in the arm that is needed to revive stagnant relationships. Solar eclipses get things moving again in these very important romantic unions as well, for better or worse. So it can make one partner even brave enough to move out of the relationship if it was just going nowhere. So this is liberating no matter how you look at it. For Aquarius, this is in your 6th house of health, and this means it will certainly test your immunity. However, if you get through this period without so much as a sniffle, then well done. You're obviously leading a balanced life and looking after your precious human body, both mentally and physically. This solar eclipse attempts to jolt an imbalanced soul back into a harmonious life rhythm. You might have to get worse before you get better though, so be patient. However, after this period of adjustment, you should feel more integrated with your surroundings and back to better health as a result. A short illness can be a blessing, serving the purpose of shaking you out of your routine. That was in fact stagnating you. It's nature's way. And finally, Pisces, you get a very joyful eclipse in a very fun house as well. So this is nice. It could be a blinding eclipse and a half, but you will get more love juice if it falls in close aspect to the ruler of this house, the house 5, or to a personal planet located within it. But parents might find themselves in a volatile merry-go-round with their children. One minute they're adorable, the next possessed by brat demons, and this also includes teenagers as well. Children can become very demanding of your attention just when you are least in the mood to be a responsible adult. This eclipse forces you to include more leisure time into your life, whether you have children or not. Fun is healing and can recharge you enough so that you don't bumble into perilous relationships, because this is also a house of lovers. So I don't think I'm going to rant on about anything, because the solar eclipse lasts for about 6 months, and what I like doing with the moon posts is that because they're every 2 weeks, they give me an opportunity to kind of just check in, I guess, with everyone and just talk about what's current in the news. But you know, these solar eclipses will have a much longer shelf life, and anything I talk about during this eclipse will probably be kind of out of date by the time some people might want to sort of listen to it in a few weeks time, or even 3 months, 6 months time. So, oh look, there's my alarm going off saying you must stop now. So yes, I've been working really, really, really hard over the last 2 months. In fact, I haven't done anything sociable for so long. So I decided that, once I've finished everything I needed to do, like the horoscopes and the Mercury retrograde and these eclipses, that's it. This weekend is the solstice, the summer solstice. It's already the summer. You wouldn't know it in England. It's just been so horrible. The weather's just been rubbish. But I think it's going to be all right this weekend. So I'm going to go and visit my astrologer friend, one of my lovely astrologer girlfriends, and we're going to celebrate the solstice together in a place that's going to be quite near where I'm hoping to move to, so I can sit there and dream about my future home, which I think is quite appropriate for this Cancerian eclipse, which is kind of looking for a family, and that's what I'm doing really. I think we'll do that. Plus, you will see me again at some point. I haven't just gone behind a blank screen. But yeah, I have to record all the 2020 horoscopes, and for that one I have to look presentable. So yeah, you will see me at some point. All right then, thanks for listening until then, and see you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.